Meeting to order. It is Tuesday, 2024. This is the Capital Program Committee. It's 3:08 p.m. And I want to do a roll call vote. I'm Jill.
Christy Kickham.
Howard Matz.
John Kitchener.
And staff, we have Sue.
Carmel.
And we have some members from, it looks like the airport. We have Art and Maria and Preston.
Here.
Hello.
And that seems to be everybody. So we're gonna, this meeting is being audio video recorded. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Yes, second.
Second.
Second, and on your motion, Chrissy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
John's aye,
Aye.
Howard's aye, Jill's an aye, thank you. And do we have any public comment? Art, you wanna go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Arthur Gasparo, Chair of the Airport Commission. I'm only here to not, just to tell you that we are working on getting you the information that you requested and to try to refine our numbers. So if you don't have discussion scheduled for today related to the airport, I just wanted to make sure that we're staying, keeping you up to speed, remaining to have a chance to go over this with you and letting you know that, it's only been 2 days, but we're doing our best to get some more information and hopefully we could be heard at your next meeting. And so that was all I had.
Okay, well, our next meeting is next Thursday at 3:00.
Great.
Madam Chair, it's at 2:00.
Oh, sorry, it's getting moved to 2?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna move it to 2. So if you want to be on the agenda, Art?
If that works for you, we would appreciate that. And hopefully we could wrap this up.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
And so we'll hold off on your worry today. I mean, people can still comment about it, but we'll hold off until next Thursday.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I thought we really gotta wrap up we gotta get into report writing, so we wanna finish up the overall number, so, okay, thanks, Art. Anyone else? Okay, and I'm gonna close public comment, so now we can get into the worries. If you all got your email from Sue, you can see the list and how everything ranked and where it fell.
Why are the lines on there?
So the first blue line is everything that was at the median, because that's how they do a median average. The second line is the standard deviation down. So historically, the way Stephen did it was he would, so we can talk about anything below the median, or we can just talk about anything below the standard deviation. I mean, we can talk about any of them. I'm fine. I'm just letting you know, we kind of usually, so that we didn't have to go over every single one, we usually, if people wanted to make a comment about the ones between the blue lines, you could. And then we probably should talk about all the ones that didn't make it, or at least some kind of.
so outside the standard deviation and things that want to prove, that's the 37 million number
Exactly.
that I was kind of.
Does that make sense, John?
I think so. I mean, I've got some specific ones I'd like to talk about, but let's see if they're, I'm trying to figure out whether they're on or not, but let's see what where we end up. And if I've got some that we didn't talk about, then I'll let you know.
So we can just start with 41. Stu has it up on the screen too, if that's easier for you.
Do you want to talk about it only if somebody has something to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you all have anything from 41 to 56, those, historically would go into the report based on the math.
Sue, do you have anything in those comments that we should be reading?
I'm kind of.
Sorry, I'm muted. No, there are nothing in the comments.
I'm sorry.
I said I'm
Yeah,
kind of.
and Dawn's only here till 4, so we want
Right.
to talk about what you want to
Me
talk
too.
about.
It's, I mean, the Island Home is my project.
Yeah.
And I understand like it's a lot of money, but it's also, if we don't do it now, we're never doing it. So it's like
Yeah.
either we're in this business or we're out of this business. And for me, the reason it's become my project is I think that it is a necessity for the island to have something like this. I see some of the people who are in there, they don't have other options.
Yeah.
And they're like a lot of long. And I get people, and you know, people like Andrew Vorse moved his mother here. Charlie Gibson moved his mother here so that they could be near them,
Right, and they're
in there.
still working and,
their end of life.
yeah.
And
I was gonna ask about that.
but it's never gonna be this price again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that, like, I guess it passed, but I just wish it was a little bit higher in support. I think every new facility that we're gonna see going forward is going to be in these $100+ million price tags, especially when I look at the DPW and what it's coming in at just for like offices and basically.
What
Um,
year did the design get approved or the money for? Is that,
21?
Yeah, it's,
yeah,
I want to say 3 or 4 years
3
ago.
years ago? How much did that cost?
Madam Chair, before we get into dig down too far, can at least I have just a comment, because I sort of have a little different outlook on it than Dawn, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, if that's okay. Yeah, you know, I in my heart, I understand and agree with Dawn's point of view, but you know, 45 beds for almost $100 million. When I think about, you know, some of the other priorities we have on the island, that, you know, 96 million spent, for example, on affordable housing would benefit a lot more than 45 residents. And the other thing is, you know, on the mainland, I mean, my mother-in-law was at she was in a very nice establishment, but it was, because where we lived, it was like almost an hour's drive, which isn't that different than getting on the ferry. So I'm not so, you know, I'm not really of the opinion that this is the right way to go, and that, you know, as painful as it might be, people may have to have their loved ones close to them, but not on the island. So I just can't get past, you know, such a colossal amount of money for such a small number of beds. I also wonder what the annual running costs are going to be versus our current facility. And I know, you know, conventional wisdom might say, well, it's going to be a lot less because it's new and all that. On the other hand, I'm not so sure that is true. And, you know, I guess, do we know what the running cost of the new facility is going to be versus the old one?
Yeah, Dawn says she can answer
The
that.
staffing is no different except for custodial, because there are larger spaces. But in terms of nursing requirements within the current design, it was to keep it at the same like negotiated staff.
Yeah.
We will save money on utilities with some of the things that are being put in the front end, like solar and geothermal and that kind of thing. Not to mention the fact that it'll be insulated to current standards. And I mean, just a couple of things to think about is that it's really easy to say it's only touching 45 people. but that's 45 people at any one time. There might be one of us who has to have knee surgery or then goes in there for rehab. And that's one of the things that we're getting to in terms of the operational model, is that if there is a nicer facility, there will be opportunities for more revenue to be generated, both through private pay individuals and through short-term, the desirability of it being short-term rehab where you have a single room. And you can come home rather than going to somewhere like Spalding. So, I mean, that's not an exact answer, but I think that gives you a pretty clear picture in terms of the cost. And don't forget the town meeting already passed a $5 million permanent override to fund operating expenses.
Well, that's what I want to ask
So
you.
it's that and the 8.5, it's like, what are we doing if we're not moving forward with this? And one more point, it also employs a lot of people.
I was gonna ask on the override has to stay in place. Yeah. Sustain itself.
Hmm?
So it
Yeah,
can't
well,
sustain itself.
it was a permanent override.
Yeah.
You have to do an underride to get rid of it.
That's fine. I just wanted to register my point of view.
And I
Yeah.
get that, I've heard it, and that is the big decision, is do we want to ship to Island, or do we want to keep them here and take care of them?
Christie?
Did you have a question?
You first.
Okay. Don, I got a question. I got a few questions. I do worry about, obviously, the easy one to say is we don't worry about the cost, and the costs for building, and going forward, as it's always been in deficit. And, two things I'm looking at, it's easy for me to say because I don't really have anyone there. I've never needed it. I've never had family members there. I'm disconnected, but, when I asked Libby the question, about a month ago, I said, what's the town's, how do you get behind something like this? And, she gave a, good thoughtful answer from the point of view of the town manager, but, as I look forward, we all know, we're looking at all these, departmental requests. Obviously, on coastal resiliency, and I'm seeing the costs of things in the future are gonna be tremendous. And I'm just worried that, if we have an item in the budget that's just in the red all the time, that's not gonna help. I think it's wonderful that island families have a place to keep people here. And I think there's a legacy to that is really quite nice. And it brings an island community together, which is really, really great. And I guess my question would be, I didn't rank it great, to be honest, but I kind of get the side of it, aside from my thoughts. But if it's so valuable, to have here, the people that are using it, I don't want to milk them, but what's the most we can charge to have people here so that it does make sense and you can sell it as being something and not giving a price structure based on what we've always done, staying in the red. That's sort of, I'm kind of in John's camp a little bit, but I want to be convinced, and so it's a little tough for me, especially when I've, and as you say,
We've been,
every year things going up in price, and so.
I mean, we're about to raise the rates
Yeah.
again but I mean, it is the patients that are Medicare and Medicaid.
Mhm.
But that was, I mean, part of what I was saying is that we do think in kind of like the modeling and how other things function, that it will be more desirable to private pay. because of what the facility will be compared to what it is now. I highly recommend going and having a tour of the current facility. There's one shower. The staff is amazing, and it will be the same staff. But the facility is absolutely failing, and this town meeting vote, none of us want to come off as sounding threatening, but this is we're either moving towards closure, which could take a decade,
Right,
or
right.
we're building this
Right.
facility. We're not going back to the drawing board. This is the last. So it's
The
a
discussion
major
ends this year.
community.
The discussion ends this year,
It
what you're
does.
saying, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that it ends in fact
No,
that
I
we're
get it.
closing tomorrow,
Yeah.
but
Can
we're
I
gonna
ask another
move towards
question? 'Cause I
closure.
know
Yeah.
we've talked about it, I've heard people talk about it, to say that if we do move forward, if it's approved and moves forward, it sounds like you already have plans to put the senior center in the existing
If
building.
town meeting's willing to fund it,
Right, and that's another $30 million, yeah,
probably.
but what if we didn't fund that, then what happens to that? Is there any-
I'm sure we'll come up with another proposal. We wouldn't be able to sell it without a town meeting vote. Nobody wants to sell it.
Right.
But if the senior center is not the right fit, which I think it's a very good reuse of that property and kind of ties into the fact of maintaining the view more for the senior population. But also, if we do build a new senior center there, I'm sure we'll put in places where there could be meetings or functions, or maybe even voting or something could go there. Or the kind of ideas that have been talked about. But that's a whole, I mean, that's just in feasibility stage.
I don't want to personalize this at all, but I do have a bunch of questions about it. So, but they're coming directed to you, because you're the advocate.
I'm the answer.
So there's a series of questions, but what do your fellow select board members think about this?
It's a big number, but we've also been talking about that we've got to wrap our heads around. These are the kind of numbers we're dealing with now.
Do you have a majority?
Yeah.
Okay. The math on this is really odd, and I don't want to be insensitive to this at all, but if you were to go to a first-class facility like this will be on the island, you could pay $20,000 to $30,000 a month, right? And if you went to something on Cape Cod, I don't even think it would be that much. So when you're trying to evaluate what this is, which is essentially $2 million a room, and you start dividing that out by 45 beds and stuff, it's 2 million if you divide it over 45 beds.
It is. Yeah.
And that's a lot of money to pay for private jets and helicopters to take people to visit their family members in Cape Cod in a home there. Way more money and less operating expenses. And not much different, I think, than what John said about how far we've all driven to take care of our parents. So that's my issue with this. And the bigger looming issue behind that one is, I wonder if what it does to our integrity, if we put this in front of the town warrant meeting. I wonder how people really feel about it, and if they're gonna say, you guys are out of your minds, or are they gonna say, that we fully agree with Dawn's argument on this? What do you imagine? You know the town
There's
better.
gonna be a mix, but I
Mhm.
think that the 8.5 million plus the 5 million are indicators that people really do want this. I'm sure that there will be sticker shock on the overall number. We are getting some additional things. One, we did have to pay Sherburne Commons some additional impact money to put this together, because we're taking
Yeah,
more area than they had originally anticipated in the way our lease was drafted, or their lease was drafted with us. But it's kind of like a lease back. We're moving off there. We had to relocate their housing to make it work in conjunction with them without requiring more property. But in the end, we're going to get 4 units with, I think it's either 16 or 18 bedrooms that will be moving onto the sewer property. So we are gaining some additional employee housing, which is great.
Mhm.
And we do have a, put option as well that'll be built into this to acquire 2 of the Sherburne Commons cottages, but that's up to them to decide if they're going to exercise
Sure.
that.
In
Within
the
like
si-
2 years of it being built.
Dawn, in the scheme of things,
Yeah.
this is $240 million of capital expenditures, of which $100 million of it is really related to the senior center.
The
As a-
island home.
To the island home. As a select board member, do you believe that it's prudent to do something like that if you were looking at managing the capital and the taxes and finances of this town? Or do you,
You sound like a reporter.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
but these are the
I-
questions we should be asking, because
Yeah.
But that is, it is. What does government subsidize and what doesn't it? And the community has continued to say this is something that's important.
I didn't ask that question. I asked a different one.
But do I think it's a
Do
huge
you, yeah, do
number?
you-
Yes.
it's
I
not
think
financially
It's
prudent,
just gonna get more expensive, and if we had to acquire land,
but if you didn't do it, you would not be spending $100 million plus $15 million of operating expenses a year.
but we've also been working on this for like.
I just
I
asked a
know.
really simple question. Do you think it's prudent in financial management of a town who has a pretty expensive and growing capital
Mhm.
appetite to do something like this? And I don't know what your answer is. I won't repeat it, but just,
Oh, it's not an ideal business to be in,
okay.
but I just can't look at it only from a business.
You can't, and you did a
perspective.
really good pitch for it, right? I heard that.
Mhm.
Do you think that that we're doing our job as a committee if we approve something like that?
No, I mean,
It's tough.
yeah,
It's a tough question.
it's.
I mean, you
a
could
tough
ask that
one.
for all of us, really.
I didn't, I meant it,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask
Yeah,
everybody else
yeah.
too, because it's a, how do you feel like the purpose of the committee justifies, the mandate of the committee, in fact, allows you to feel comfortable that it's the right thing to approve it or not to approve it?
Well, how about that it was is an already existing policy decision that we are in the nursing home business? Is this the best way to continue to provide services that we've already as policy decided we're providing?
How about the question, which is, if we're doing our job as a committee, are we doing our job?
True, Don, true.
We
Are you
don't
saying-
disagree
No,
with
I'm
you. Nothing you said can be argued with. You are totally right on everything. Just thinking, are we as a committee, and I think I'm kind of asking everybody, are we doing our job? If that number is approved and promoted to the finance committee and then gets on the warrant, which it is, I think it's on the warrant.
Well, Howard, if I can answer from me, I would say, to me, it's case by case. I can't take it and say, just because of the money, this isn't prudent.
You need to answer it in the big picture.
What's that?
N-
And
Not isolating it at all, just, do you think that?
I'm
it's-
answering how I want to answer it, I'm isolating it.
I wanted you to give it.
No, I mean, in the big picture, and financially, not prudent.
You have to do it in the context of what Dawn said. Right?
Meaning what?
Either you give credence to that it's an unnecessary outrageous amount of money to pay for something that nobody else in the state does, or,
So,
and that for the town to spend money on it, or you do the alternative, which is,
Case I'm in a meeting. What-
this is something we need to do.
yeah, so, yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that I think for a committee making a recommendation, the thing is this. It's easy for us to look at the finances and say, and clearly, we, as a committee, don't really agree with it. That is different when it goes to town and you're talking about legacy and heritage. That's a different component
Agree.
of what comes into it. But from the committee's point of view, as an advisory committee, it's hard for the 5 of us to determine what the legacy and heritage components are for a community.
It's very hard, especially.
It's difficult.
I didn't grow up here.
So, Madam Chair, can I jump in and try to give my answer to when Christie's finished to Howard's question.
I think what you're,
Yeah, I'm
this
done.
would be a good note.
It's a great note, and he raises an important point, you don't have family in that home, other people do, and neither you nor I have a history with this, to have an emotional connection to it, which carries a huge amount of weight in the decision-making process.
I thought it was unfortunate that we didn't get, Sherman Commons. I think that was up, sort of an idea back in the day when it was for sale. I know someone that reads down there on, East Creek every single day. They said they have never seen someone sitting out, maybe it's the time of day they're there, looking at the view. Unfortunately, to me, that's an argument, I don't really get that. I think a nice facility, good people, good activities is really what makes it. And they do have the shuttle, that they help out with, staff. So that's never really been an argument of mine, but, that would have been a good opportunity back then. It probably would have been a third of the cost with over 100 beds, but then you need more staff, so it's all. Anyway, Jill, I leave to you.
So John, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, well, first, a quick question for Dawn. Dawn, since you've been on the select board, is this 96 million, is this the highest capital project we've ever had? Or have there been others, above that?
Yes, it is, John. I mean, I will say that when the Island Home was proposed back in 2018 on Sherburne, it was more in line with what the middle school, or the intermediate school was being built for. So I would imagine now, if we were talking about building a new school, we'd be talking at over 100 million. The Vineyard's talking about building a new high school, and their low estimates 200 million, and their high end.
Yeah.
400
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That was just out of interest. But
the Island Home is the first one that's in this realm.
yeah.
They're all going to be.
So, Howard, I'm going to try and answer simply. I do not think, well, as an individual, I do not think I would be acting responsibly to vote this amount of money for such a small amount of benefit for such a small number of people. And so that would be my answer. No, I don't think, what we all decide is fine. But for me, as an individual, I do not feel comfortable at all about 96 million for such a small amount of people.
Thank you. What do you think?
I'm more aligned with Howard and John about it. Like, do I think the town should even be in the nursing home business? No, but you're right. I don't have a personal connection to it. I have toured. I ran for select board once, and I spent a lot of time there. And I really enjoyed the people and the staff, and it is really bad facility. So we were gonna.
I've been there.
It's not good. People seem well looked after, and they seemed happy.
Yeah.
I was impressed with that. But for me, the way our legislative body works is town meeting. And so I think the voters get to decide, and I think it's important to put it forward. I think we could have a note in there if you all want to say we, this is exaggerating, but like the trepidation, like, well, we want to put it forward, but to me, it's really important because what Dawn is saying is that emotional connection, and what you said, which I'm spot on, the legacy versus the financial implications. We have to let the voters decide if they want to keep this.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if I may, I think what is likely to happen if it goes to town meeting and it does not pass, we're talking about 45 families at the moment. I think what will happen is individuals will then make their own next best decision, which might be, they put their loved one, in a community off island, but that they can get to easily, by ferry. Others may decide okay, it's time to, you know, build another room on the house or a tertiary dwelling or, you know, and take care of mom and dad, you know, a different way with nursing help. And, you know, maybe one of the things we could, if it doesn't pass, maybe we can think about somehow providing grants, subsidies.
Jump in and just talk about that for a minute, because that's been an ongoing theme of why can't this be kind of taken over with home health care? It's really, that could solve some problems or help with some problems, but we're talking about people who absolutely need round the clock
24.
care. And when you talk about private nursing round the clock, aside from the expense of having basically a full-time staff of 3 to provide round the clock care, there's not, where are those employees coming from?
Right.
Where are they living? You know, by having 45 people in the same building, there's one charge nurse at a time. It's that crossover of you know, a handful of people taking care of all of those people at any one time. So it's just and it's very cost prohibitive. A lot of people need to sell their house to be able to pay for this kind of care. A lot of people aren't even.
Yeah,
Well,
it's just not the
everybody-
people that can build a.
Yeah, it's just, I just wanted to address that point, but I think really, like, there can certainly be comments in the report about, we don't think that this is the most responsible business for the town to be in kind of angle. That it's not prudent from a business perspective, but I think there needs to be some recognition for the fact that the community and the board and the select board have continued to support us being in this business as a government subsidized service.
Yeah.
And if we are going to build it, and if we are going to stay in the business, this is the best it's gonna get. Kind of thing.
John, can I say something? I
just
just,
one more quick question.
yeah, quick.
When did the Ireland Home start? Do you remember what year?
Geez.
It was Landmark before,
Landmark.
that building was built like in 84, I think.
Wow.
But the Landmark House was the Island Home prior to that.
Right.
And before that, the Landmark House was.
'Cause they needed
famous-
more,
famous
they
by-
needed,
So they added more beds.
well, they needed one floor.
Yeah.
You needed just, yeah,
Operationally.
yeah, and as
But-
you say, 24-hour service needs.
Would I be correct in saying that that this facility cannot be privatized because no investor would take the financial returns from this?
Yeah, it would probably need to be larger for it to even be considered by.
Is
by
there room
private,
there
and
on the property to make it larger? And then to go out for bid to have it
I don't-
privatized?
It's been talked about over the years. It's just, there has not been the
No,
appetite.
no.
Sherburne Commons has almost gone bankrupt more than once.
So would,
And that's without.
I
nurses.
think Dawn made a suggestion, which I think, listen, it made it above the line.
Oh, we did.
I'm not, I think that the town needs to decide on this, but I think the committee needs to say, we don't think it's particularly prudent, but there are many reasons why people of the town might want to approve it, and that's why we're pushing it forward. And John, I'd like to, either you write it or I write it before everybody sees it, so that everybody can play a role in tinkering with it to make sure that it's,
We'll put that in the top report.
you know what I mean? Because it's.
Yeah. I think that's fair, Howard. I do. That's fair. It's a good way.
Phrase it that way, to say we have to give the people the opportunity.
Right.
Because the reality of this is, the
Itself.
this decision is not going to get made based on a couple of paragraphs from the capital committee, right? I mean, so.
It just needs to, we have to put the right note in there and then put it to the citizens to decide how they.
Yeah.
feel about it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a big deal. I don't think that you have the context to be able, and neither does John, to have the context to feel for what the local people feel about it that grew up here. But that's not to say that
Yeah.
it's.
And just for the record, I have not had a parent in there.
Yeah.
No, I know, it's really.
I just think it's a huge amount of money. That's
Uh,
all.
Okay. Do we feel like we've covered that one for now, or?
Yeah,
we
I'm
can
glad
also-
you're here to, field comments.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I mean, having
I
been,
mean,
yeah,
No, it's great.
This is the one, I mean, I've been in all the meetings.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Just, I know a lot about what's going on with it, but it's also, it's just a really important kind of last decision about being in this business for the long term.
yeah.
I agree. I think we have a good solution for the report.
But the thing is, you can't build it and 6 years later say, well, maybe we don't do it.
Right.
No.
Yeah, this
You
is
know-
endorsing us another 50 years, is that what you're saying? I mean,
Well, yeah, at least 30.
Yeah,
yeah.
right. But
So
we're
it's
not
a big
endorsing, we're
long-term
neither
decision.
endorsing it or not. We're just saying it would be a nice to have, and you guys as a town need to decide. Even though it's important.
Well, it's not just that, think what John said that really was speaking to me is that, this is already, it is an institution now, it's been one for a long time, we're not, because the building's new, that doesn't make the institution new, right?
Right. But it's that old adage, if somebody told you to jump off and your friend did it, would you do it too? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you got, great argument. It
No, it's
doesn't,
a little bit different.
Madam Chair, unfortunately, I got a hard stop at 4:15, so I don't know whether, if there's, have we sort of done this one to death or not?
yeah,
Sorry.
no, we
Do you
no,
want to?
Listen,
it was really
That's
good
the
you were
big
here.
ticket. Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
big ticket. one.
DPW is
There's no
another
doing
one.
that one to death. It's
So
a
what
big
are the
ticket.
other ones that anybody else wants to talk about?
There is, but do you have another one you want
Do
to
you
talk
have
about?
another
John, do you have one you want
If
to
you
talk
guys
about?
wanted to talk about the other big one.
Yeah, where's the DPW one? I can't,
It passed, it's on my.
That's the.
Sorry.
oh, there it is. Yeah, I couldn't see it because my screen.
Yeah,
Under
The-
facilities.
the one that I would talk about if we're ready, Madam Chair.
Here.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. interesting.
Okay.
By the way, the note that I would write for that building is that the Public Works really need to do a really good job explaining why it's important, better than they've done before. In order to market it properly and get people to appreciate how there will be cost savings from it.
Okay.
Great.
No, I just,
All right.
yeah. I feel pretty strongly about the Tom Nevers bike path because it's part of the plan, the master plan. Because somebody got killed, well, he didn't get killed, we just talked to him yesterday. He's in rehab for his
Yes.
spine. And he's doing well.
Yeah.
We just talked to him yesterday but I think that is a pretty dangerous thing and I'm very surprised and I would like to see it above the line.
It has seemed to have taken kind of a backseat to like more closer in town
Yes,
sort of projects. Cause I've been seeing that one around for some time.
right.
But we did approve the Wellway one, now that one had some grant money with it. so
They
that
all have
helped.
grant money though, because they just, this might not have grant money attached to it, but it complies with the
comply.
requirements to be able to apply for it. Is that right?
The what?
The bike path could get
bike
state
path,
funding or
yeah.
will, I think it will
It,
get state.
it will, at least.
So
some of it.
like 80%
I
funding?
think. it could.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if it gets 80% funding and it's,
A no-brainer.
yeah. And we
Okay.
want the fund, we want to apply for the funding. We can't apply for it unless the whole thing's approved.
I guess on a larger note, is at this point, is it like, oh, well, we have like 239 million is approved from the second line up, so. Saying, oh yeah, well, willy-nilly, we're gonna throw in.
I don't think so, because I think that I do think that our island home that shouldn't be included in the total, really, because it's so different.
Mhm.
You know, it's just not part of capital budgeting. It's a, we really would like to have it, or we really think it's important, but it's different.
One of the things I think about bike paths is that, to me, ultimately, that's the big attraction for the island, so to me, that brings in revenue, because
It
I think
does.
it brings in people, so I'm always really in favor. of
So
bike
how do
paths. I
we-
rate that high.
I don't know who ranked it low then.
Well, Pete he can't be here, and I don't know what he would say, but
For which one?
for the Tom Nevers bike path,
Oh, yeah.
but
Can we, Sue, is there a way to find out how did this get ranked so badly?
Well, I don't think we gotta pick apart everybody's.
You can
ranking.
ask people what they think, why they
Yeah,
thought that.
we're here.
You mean you just, okay.
Well, you just
So-
gotta be honest and, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I know the gentleman, I think I had
Oh,
Right.
we all do.
decent and fair. and pretty,
Yeah.
you know.
So how do we move something up?
All we have to do is take a vote. If you all wanna vote to move it into the hopper, so to speak, then we can move it up. The other thing I was gonna tell you though about these, they don't get ranked like that in the report. So no one knows what our rankings are.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's in or out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would make a motion to move the bike path into,
Right, and I would, I
Into
think
into the in category.
Howard seconded it.
Okay, take a vote.
Then I have to leave.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Don?
Aye.
Aye. Jill and I. Great, so we'll move that into.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything else that I was surprised about or how this fell out.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I had, this is a little bit difficult to explain, Madam Chair, but, and if you just say you can't do that, well, that's fine. But I would like to talk about the natural resources because the ask for 26 is 12.1 million. You know, in 25, it was 1.9, in 24, it was 1.5, in 23, it was 2.4. And then going forward in 27, it's 3.7. And then in 28, it's 3.5. So that 12.1, it isn't so much that I disagree with anything that's in there, but I do think we should ask Mr. Carlson, though, to take a look at this and spread it to some, 27, 28. And, get that 12 million number, way down for fiscal year 26, given all the other issues we've got. So that would just be my suggestion, but I don't know how to do that because I don't, I'm not qualified to say move this one, don't move that one. I think it's really for him to look at that.
So, like 6 million of it, almost 5.9 million of it did not go, am I counting that right? 5, 6, and then 3, 5, 6. Is below the line.
I mean, natural resource.
Oh, okay.
More than
So,
almost 8 million of it is below the line.
And above the line is 500,000 and 2.
forget everything I just said, Madam Chair.
So it's okay, I just wanna let you know. it's quite a few of those
It kind of fell out the way you wanted.
Yeah.
You know, Christie,
did.
I don't know much about the dredging. Do you know much about the dredging?
Well, I'll tell you, I know is that we just approved money for dredging and I was thinking, can we dredge what we have and then like, do we need to dredge them all at the same time?
Do you know
I
about
think-
this?
Well, we don't have dredging equipment here. It's one of those things where when you do it when it's here, instead of keep bringing, because one of
I see.
the big charges is just hiring equipment to get it over here and schedule it. So you kind of try to bundle it,
Like paving?
all that paving equipment's here.
Yeah.
Nantucket doesn't have dredging equipment. It has to come from the mainland.
Is this something that needs to be done? Is it critical? Do you know that?
Well, ever since I've been doing town government since 2000, there's always been dredging in the mix. It's usually every 4 or 5 years sometimes, where they have to do it. They have an obligation to make sure that channels are channels and waterways are clear.
Mhm.
So.
Do you have a recommendation? Are you of leaving it alone or that I feel like you're the most knowledgeable person or that we need to override that?
Okay, I can't answer that exactly, Howard. But because what I'm doing is I'm looking at the bottom of the list. And I'm looking at, and I kind of group hazard mitigation with natural resources a little bit.
Right.
We had the flood barrier one that time.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the ones that are under the line. And I'm trying to get some semblance for those and you know, how I think those should lie. You know, I know the climate action plan, we denied it last year. That is you know, I mean, that's sort of us keeping in line with what the rest of the state is doing. And so there's some coordination to have that so that we are working in the same capacity as like everywhere else. And we're one of the only communities that doesn't have it. But
Do we get state money, Christie?
we are unique. We do. I don't know how much it is, John. I can find out. You know, there are state funds available.
Do we need to look into this just a little bit further? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
this
some
is
of
the first
that-
time I'm seeing the list, so what I can do is, if it's okay, I know we gotta do this soon. Are we meeting Tuesday as well
No.
as Thursday?
No, just Thursday.
Just Thursday?
But it's okay, because I would write a note that would say, you know, that the committee felt that this was integral to the operations of the harbor,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't write that note.
Yeah. So what I was gonna do is, I was gonna do my due diligence as part of coastal resiliency to just sort of,
is some of
I
that
wanna
covered in that?
match some of these up. Yeah, it's just,
I feel like, is there,
I wanna see, yeah,
or
what, like,
something,
yeah, cause I'm meeting with them on Tuesday. So, on the hazard mitigation coastal resiliency, give me a little time on that, and I'll give you guys some background, and you know, they rated low, I probably rated some of them lower
I
as
did
well.
too, but I think I did it out of lack of knowledge.
I do think that. I don't want, like, I want them to be low by merit. I don't want them to be low because we feel we have to make some low.
Mhm.
Because there are things that we
Well
do
said.
need to do, you know, and we need to be mindful, and we do need to start thinking about the natural component and making sure that we're ready when things really start to really blow up
You know,
in cost and in you know, in the emergency of doing it. I guarantee you, in a number of years, it might be 20 years, it might be 10. A lot of these could be at the top of the list, because that's gonna be
Right.
where we are at that. You know, I won't be on the committee at that point, but
But
I
it's
always,
good that
I
we-
wanna try to be a good steward, and same thing with the Ireland Home. I wanna do what's right for 20 years down the road. You know what I mean?
Can we put that on the agenda for next week for Christie to report back?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
for me,
I
I would
mean, I'll
like to
just
know
do it,
is-
and we can do it within our Rory discussion.
Oh,
I
okay,
will do
Yeah.
it. We don't need, it doesn't need to be a separate line item.
But the reason
yeah, that would be awesome.
I like the duplication of everything, or
Yeah,
some things are being done in triple, like, that's what would help, I think, our committee in the future, is
Yeah.
if coastal resiliency can explain. I mean, all the money that they get, they pretty much farm out studies, and it
a lot of
seems like,
studies, yeah, because,
can't
We
those
need-
studies be included in some of the natural resources studies? Not all of them, not eelgrass, not the ponds necessarily,
Fair.
but, you know,
Jill,
the
fair.
climate action.
Yeah, fair.
plan, like, that's what I'm sort of like, well, I feel like I'm hearing these same
it's
concepts.
the same, it's the
And
same language.
Why don't we all
That's,
get to a similar,
yeah.
like, can we subcontract that out at the same time, through the same funding source? You know?
Fair, yeah,
And
hear-
think
I
it
hear
would
ya.
help us if maybe Lauren, right? Was she
Lauren, yeah,
Lauren and Jeff could kind of say, well, here's what breaks down between what we're doing. I know
Yeah.
Jeff is only coming in for a piece of what
Yeah.
she's doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I could,
I think that would help us in the future.
yeah, I
which
could
is something
maybe-
I had to break down things by department.
I could maybe have her chime in next week too. She's very knowledgeable. Lauren's staff for natural resources.
If you think it's valuable,
Coastal
but I
resiliency.
almost think it's that I'd rather rely on you.
Yeah,
what
I
you
mean, I'm
find.
happy to, but. you know,
Yeah.
If there's something I can't answer, it's nice to.
Oh, well, that's true.
Her money is like under the town admin,
Right.
but like when they break it down here, we have a request to sue, she puts it under natural resources.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So maybe they
She
already
is.
do coordinate more, and I just.
I wrote a note to make a note of it because I think it's a really good idea. I feel like there's no huge master plan for approaching this sequentially, you know, at the same time letting contracts be more, get economies of scale from contract letting.
Okay.
So I thought maybe
So
that would be a good,
No, no,
We'll
there,
put it in those two then.
yeah, yeah, I can do. I mean, there is coastal resiliency plans, there's, the-
I didn't know how they sequentially fit. Meaning, if you wanted to do some this year and some next year and some next year, how you made that decision? How we would make a recommendation based on saying, this really,
based on that, yeah.
I don't know.
No, I got it.
I
It
don't,
muddies it a little bit, right?
yeah. And then, I had a question. Do you feel comfortable, Jill, talking to Art? I wonder whether the airport things are mandated by FAA. And I think, yeah,
I don't think that they said that. I mean, he even put it down as medium
okay.
on the priority
Then
list,
I-
and
then
I
I-
looked at the priority list. I mean, those,
Then I would drop that, my comment then. I just was worried that
yeah.
we were not doing something that had to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I vote like the South Apron
Yeah,
noise barrier, I voted low.
me too.
I'm a huge proponent of storage facility. I will usually vote that on the higher side because I value the equipment that we're getting.
Me too.
You know. Yeah. I just do, for some
Yeah.
reason,
But that, just
have-
like that the auxiliary building, I mean,
I-
that auxiliary building last year for
The
town,
DPW building. Boy, that took it was just dive. You know,
for
it
the
just had,
public safety, you talk this one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
public safety.
Yeah,
that just was dead before it arrived at that meeting.
yeah. You gotta think though, for public safety, for a storage facility building. We are spending money for the next 30 years of preserving our equipment.
And reducing equipment purchases.
Don't you think, this is very like broad, but like, don't you think since a lot of people don't park their cars in garages here, like, that's kind of how they think?
I don't think that that's what they
You're right.
thought about when they voted that down. I think they didn't think about what Christie said, which is, it's a prudent thing to do because it's gonna
No,
save you
they
money in the
don't
long run.
value that equipment, they're
No.
not compared to their car. They're not valuable,
No.
this equipment is much more valuable than that, and it has very
Yeah.
specific uses.
Or they're okay buying a car every, 8 years as opposed to, just there's more that goes wrong with it. You will probably have more rust on your brakes, you're gonna have more, just,
Yeah.
it's more out here, salt, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a bunch of cars, I don't get anything if I can't keep it inside. And I see the value of what that does for, I can imagine when you're talking this equipment with hydraulics on it and
Yeah,
hoists and this and that and pumps and then, and then everyone that's working that stuff everything works great. It's lubricated, it's nice, it's not rusty, it's not like.
and they know where all the
Rocket
parts are.
gear,
Yeah.
They save time because they know where all the spare parts are.
Yeah,
So, thank you, that would be really helpful. I'd like to change the subject to the report writing. Can you
Well,
get,
wait, stop, because we haven't finished talking about the Rorys, so
What
are
do you
we
guys-
finished with,
Yeah.
is everyone finished talking about the Rorys? You're finished?
yeah,
what do you,
John, did you have anything else on those, or? did
No, I'm done. Thank you.
you have
while
another one?
John's here, what are you guys, what are we gonna do about the
the what?
airport housing?
Oh,
What do you guys, what's
I
your
guess they're gonna come back with another proposal next.
For what? cost?
Yeah, we kind of encouraged them, I'd say strongly encourage them to either, to kind of rework their plan.
So
On
essentially,
cost.
just to resolve or to summarize this, John,
James, I missed
John
the
said
meeting on-
appropriately, it's $6 million for four bedrooms, I think is what he said.
Potentially.
Well, yeah, you know what it is? So Howard, what it is, so the 6 million,
How about say Christie, because I'm really the one you wanna.
Yeah,
okay, Christie? Okay, Christie. So if you read exactly what Noah has said, he doesn't say even that they're 3-bedroom. He says they're 2 or 3 bedroom. So there's one duplex, 2 dwelling units with either 2 or 3 bedrooms in. So if you take, okay, 1, 3, 1, 2, that's 1.2 million per bedroom.
Per bedroom or per apartment?
A bedroom, per bedroom. Let me finish. Now you got me going. So, and remember that the land and most of the utilities are already paid for. And then you look at the Waits Drive proposal from Christie Ferrantella.
Yeah.
That is $492,000 per bedroom. Now, you know, Brian rightly the other day cautioned us that, yeah, but they haven't done all their numbers yet. But say they're 25% off. So the 492 becomes 615. That's half the cost per bedroom of what's being proposed over there. And so that's from a numbers point of view.
Don, may I add to that, that with the arithmetic that they did to get to that number, took an extreme that was so far extreme, it was like more than $1,600 a square foot.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was huge.
Okay.
And we asked them to pull it back in, to retract it to a realistic number. You know, Noah wanted to make sure he had enough money to do whatever he wanted to do, and he didn't want to have to go back to the well to ask for it. And so he asked for the world. And we asked them to ask for what they need.
Mhm.
I think,
Yeah.
I mean, usually, yes, they're saying, well, we won't borrow it if we don't need it. But my attitude about that is, well, what's the incentive to not spend it if you can?
I mean, can you encourage the builder that gave Christie Ferrantella the bid to say, can you also bid on the airport and do this?
Yeah, and Christy, that is exactly what we suggested.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mr. Gasparo really didn't want to have much to do with that. So, but that is exactly what should happen, because they're building the same kind of housing. They could, you know, it doesn't make any sense for them to have such a big, you know, a big discrepancy, because to be honest, it makes us look foolish if we were to approve this on the same docket that we're approving town affordable housing at half the cost per bedroom that they've got in. I mean, I don't know how we would kind of explain that. And then my last point, Christy, is this. And, you know, this is a personal opinion. Up until now, that's been fact. This is a personal opinion. But Jill and I and Howard have tried hard to get Noah and Mr. Gasparo to consider putting a few more dwelling units on that plot for police officers and firefighters. And all we get back is really,
Oh my God.
sorry, Art, we get back a lot of stuff, legal stuff. And I just wish, I don't get any kind of feeling like, yeah, let's try to find a way to do that. So I just wish there could be a way that we can at least try to get the FAA to understand. We're not talking about putting anybody in these units. We're talking about firefighters and police officers that are an integral part of helping at the airport when stuff happens. So, but that's just my opinion. I would rather just stick with the facts. And, you know, 1.2 million per bedroom. I don't know how we could, you know, go for that. So that's my.
I would add, Christy, we're not denigrating the importance of this, because we really need this housing. It's not what it is, it's how it's being executed.
Yeah.
5 acres of land that the FAA told them they can build on.
Right.
And they now just want 2 townhouses. They wanted like 14 buildings.
They had 12 buildings on there.
Then they kind of shifted to the dorm, you might remember from last year.
I do.
And then now they're saying, well, we really want to do something else next year. We just need 2 townhouses now. You have 5 acres of land
Right.
that you can build, and the FAA said you can you can put people in it. And so in the meantime, no, they're trying to say,
Was, okay, was the request, I can't remember, did the request, was there any funds left over for future build out
We don't know.
on this property with the funds that we are
well,
recommending or not?
you're raising a good question, because what they have is they want $6 million for design and build all in one. So what would actually go into their design, I don't know, now that you say that, they could be designing. But
And your
one of the
comment was you were
problems-
surprised.
One of the problems, I think, with their request in
Right.
general is they wanna do all of it at the same time. Garland Home, or the DPW, where they get money, they design, then you talk about it, you work through a plan,
A specific,
and then you do it. This
Costly.
is like, give
It
me
is-
the money to design and plan and build, then I think this is a different order of operations than what we used to see.
but there's an urgency
Maybe
here.
That is the urgency.
There is, and nobody is ignoring that at all.
Well,
It's just,
sure.
you know, but it's,
But there's an urgency for town employee housing too, I mean, I don't know why they get to do it differently than everybody else. That's kind of one of the things that I
Yeah.
am a
Yeah.
is to say, you know.
Yeah, I agree with Jill. I mean, we sat down with Chief Casper and Chief Cranston, and when you really get down to the issues they have now, and, you know, over the next 5-7 years, it's really bad, really bad. And,
And just to summarize that too, to what you're saying, John, is they're fine when the younger officers are still young, but by the time they wanna get married, have a family or partner, or wanna have a dog, whatever it is, like, they start losing people, so they invest all this money in somebody, and then they lose them, and you already know that, when they're about 27 or 28.
yeah, the other thing, Christy, is, you know, there are, I can't remember the exact number, but something around the 30 officers, police officers, that will be retiring in the next 10 years, most of which already have homes because they bought them way back when. So as these people retire that have homes, they got to be replaced with people that don't. So, you know, it's a real tough situation, and it's one that I think if we all pulled together, we could, you know, on this piece of land, we could really do the right thing and, you know, help alleviate some of the first responder housing issues anyway.
I'm sorry, do we have a clear understanding if we can dictate that for airport land?
well, we had a letter.
Or is that
from
still
the-
fuzzy?
Yes, the
Yeah,
letter.
I know, well,
It's
I don't
fuzzy.
think it's fuzzy.
Read a lot of letters like this. And I think that, as I said many times, the letter said what you can't do, but it doesn't, but it certainly leaves the door open for a unique situation like this. It doesn't say you can't go to the FAA and ask them and explain to them the story and see if you can get some support from them. Doesn't, and that's what we need to do. We need to try.
But I don't even, I mean, it says it's for first responder.
It does
So
say that, but
Let me ask you this, guys, listen, it's no surprise, I'm a proponent. I'd really like to see
We
this
all-
happen. I know we all are, and I know the money gets in the way. So, oh shit, I lost my train of thought.
I think what's tricky about it for me is
Okay, no, I
that
forget-
who's gonna pay?
who's got it? You better
remember-
say it,
I remembered what I was gonna say, so
so he doesn't
So
forget.
you have, no, you have, let's go, okay, so you have the airport that says. And I get the disparity with the costs between the town and the airport. But you have the airport, we can afford this, we have the retained earnings, it's there,
Yes,
we have it. We need the housing, we have the earnings, we can pay for it. Our Island Home, it's a different story.
totally.
All right, it's all gonna go to the tax base, right? We're all gonna pay for it, whether we get someone there or not,
Less Medicaid or Medicare. Yeah.
okay, but that's correct. How does that weigh in?
Because-
A lot.
Because,
Okay.
because
Just curious.
they want to.
I'm asking
design-
you guys, I'm not-
they want to design and build all
It's-
in one, that
right.
our Island Home didn't do that. They got to decide several times along the way what they wanted and didn't want to do, and I think it's important. to honor that through the legislative body, actually. I know that's.
What
the way
process,
To go forward with design money, and then to go and have a plan that you show and say, okay, well, now will you give me the money to build it?
But yeah, the thing with that is it just, I mean, not even doing it that way, also, it just seems like so much money gets added on when you're delaying it like that. You
You
might
have
as
to-
well,
no,
you
you
might as
have
well
to.
take those additional, all those, the extra costs and add it on the end, because you say, I'm gonna design, plan, build, well, now you're 2 years out, take the, you know, cost of living and index and just add it 2 years later, and then there's your savings.
Yes, but Christie, you know, the Waits Drive, Christie Farantella's submission, that's here and now, you know, that's in the same fiscal year. And that's coming out at $492,000 a bedroom. So that's my issue. And, you know, Brian sort of cautioned us on using exactly that number. So I thought, okay,
Right.
put 25 on, and then we're at 615. That's so far away from 1 to 1.2 million in the same time frame. It isn't about delaying, it's in the same. So when you said, or whoever said we should try to get the Waits Drive builder and the airport in touch with one another, I think it's an excellent idea. An excellent idea.
Hopefully they will bid on that. I mean, I think they will,
Well, I'm
but
just
when
saying.
you have 6 million borrowing, that person knows it, so they're gonna be able to say, oh, what.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Art did say that, you know, it's gotta go to competitive bids, and I think that Dawn said that she thought that we would get more than one bid for sure. So
But
that,
she also said, like you did, they'll know you got $6 million.
Yeah.
If there's any way they could crunch their numbers better, that's what we can. ask them
Right.
to do.
So, yeah.
Because, you know, Howard, for me then,
this is the optics more than anything else of how is it that as a committee, we can bless both projects, which are so diametrically
On the
different
same warrant.
for the,
yeah, I-
I
Okay.
agree.
that's all.
It's a tricky.
Financing's a little different. So that weighs in.
It certainly does, but the numbers, the basic numbers for the project, like, remember,
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. We're also talking, you know, we are talking about
It's the airport.
housing,
you're right.
you know, and I know I'm not telling you guys anything you already.
No, we agree with you.
But that's why we wanted to, we're trying to get them so that we can move it up.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate
We're
that.
just trying to make the optics better.
But
I got it.
it's up, and they're not in the housing business, it's not like we think
Yeah.
that they should.
Yeah.
That, but there is an opportunity there.
There's an opportunity
shame
and
that
there's a
people aren't
need,
doing it.
huge need,
Yep.
huge opportunity.
So we'll hear from them again next week. We'll hear back from you on maybe the climate action plan, that one.
Yeah, I will kind of review all of those, and I'll sit down with Lauren and I'll just get a good idea of those. I just gotta, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you guys. I gotta put them together. There's a little bit of overlap at times, you know, and I gotta make sure it's clear
Okay.
so that we can, you know, properly,
So with that, Sue, next week, I guess on our agenda, we'll just have Rory deliberations again, and then maybe we'll vote on the whole.
And maybe,
package
the Art is ready to talk to us next week.
With the airport on the agenda.
And, right,
did you have
I did.
yeah, go.
A housekeeping thing
Sorry.
was, I don't have the raw final Word document, Sue, that was used for last year's report. The final report?
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure what you had swept. I
Yeah.
took a look last night at it. Unfortunately, there wasn't much we could do until we finished the Rory rankings and recommendations.
So
But
are you gonna turn a draft first and then with the numbers and whatever you do in finance and then give it to us?
I'm more than happy to send you guys the draft to work on the written portion of it. I just can't do my charts until we finalized everything.
Okay, well, if you do your charts, the rest of it can be done relatively expediently. But I'd rather wait for you, so we don't muck your process up. And then have to go around once again.
As long as we keep a master copy, it's totally fine.
Yeah, all right, well, I'll wait for you then.
It sounds like our notes will be really kind of confined to around and home, maybe the airport, we don't know yet.
Right.
DPW, we're gonna make a comment
Yes.
about DPW.
Yep.
Cause that stuff's gonna go on the ballot.
Yep,
It'll have to go. on the
and,
ballot.
I mean, listen,
And is there any other Rory that we would really wanna have?
and, I think Tom Nevers, we said.
Never,
Well, I don't think we need a note on it, though.
think so, I think we're all.
Yeah.
no, I don't think we need to bring in.
So there's really, and I didn't know if anybody wanted to say anything about employee housing, but I wrote, that's on my list, the town housing.
You know what? I got a question.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got these ones that are below the line. It does look good for committee optics.
Optics.
If you say they were not approved.
Yeah.
Structure wise, but we felt that they deserve to be in the mix for town meeting vote.
Which one?
Well, I'm just like for Tom Nevers bike path, for example.
No, I would move
No,
that
we
one
just-
above the
we
line.
just
We,
gotta
we
move that.
voted to
Oh,
move that
okay.
above line.
Okay.
The other ones, it's hard to say that the town should be considering them because they're asking, the finance committee is asking us to sort
Make
through this.
recommendation.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, items that are already above the line,
There.
but there might be some that deserve a comment.
If you have one, give it
That's
to
what
me.
we're saying with the notes.
Yeah,
So if you have another one,
So
just
if you have
shoot it
some-
over.
Or bring
I
it
see what
next
you're saying.
Thursday
She
if you
does,
have
yeah.
something else.
okay,
So look at the list.
yeah, okay,
but
I'll look at it.
That's what we're
Like if
saying,
you wanna
alright,
write the
I'll-
one on the maintenance
DPW.
building, if you wanna write a couple sentences on the maintenance storage building
Yeah.
and give it to me, that would be great. That's
Yeah.
The
helpful.
airport one, oh, that's below the
No,
line.
the town one.
Yeah, you're talking the town maintenance
Yeah, just that they
facility?
need to do a better job to represent this because of the import and explain that we're gonna just say that it affects the
Well, how about this?
depreciation of the equipment.
What if we have any comments done for next?
Yeah.
For next meeting, and then we can. Or for, say for Wednesday, and then we can bring them in and talk about the
Right.
comments as well as the Rorys.
Yeah, I don't know what my calendar is
Yeah, okay,
next week, but I'll try to get them done. There's only a few of them, so.
yeah, I'm just saying, if
Yes.
I do a comment, I'm gonna submit it, but I'd like to get input from the committee.
Yeah,
We
your
all,
comment doesn't have to go into the
Yeah,
report,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it can be rewritten.
oh yeah,
So
we
why
need
don't
to
you just-
all read this stuff.
Yeah, just email,
Okay.
No, just keep it and,
Yeah,
and
just
we'll
bring
go
it.
over it
just
live.
bring it Thursday.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Or even even if you just wanna say, hey, I really do have a comment about this, I'm not exactly sure what it is, so let's talk it through and then.
Right.
Okay, great.
Fair.
Alright, so our next meeting is next Thursday, 3:00. And. I'm hoping it might be our last meeting until we can come back and look at a draft of the report.
Right.
And I know Don talked about us getting this report in at February, but I think it's even more the end of January.
But I think they got the list now, so that's what was more fundamentally important,
Yeah.
Sue. Is that right, Sue?
Yeah, but she's gotta figure out where the money's coming from.
Well, you have to vote on the ones below the line, whether they're gonna move forward or not. And then, finance and town admin can make the funding source.
Exactly. So right now, we did move forward the Tom Nevers.
And we're waiting to discuss
and
natural
we're waiting on
resources.
the natural
and
resources for
airport.
Christie and airport, so
yeah.
it's just those last two. That we gotta wait till next Thursday.
Did you discuss the town admin, townwide document management?
No, we didn't. Is all that money already been used?
I
Cause
thought
we've
that
been
was-
getting $500,000 a
No, I
year
thought
for
that
a
was-
while now. I know, I love that question.
I thought that was done.
I can look that up and get back to you with that.
Sorry, I did mean to ask you that before.
It's okay.
Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn? Or
So moved.
second,
A second.
on your motion, John?
Aye.
Chrissy?
Aye.
Howard?
All right.
Jill's and I. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
You.